Without the science equipment that they had neglected to bring to orbit, not a single Kerbal knew for sure when exactly the asteroid hit. If any civilization had existed on Kerbin outside of the Space Center, they might have known. But as there was no one else, the Space Center was simply there one moment, then in ruins the next. The 100 Kerbals orbiting 150 kilometers above the surface of the planet all turned their thoughts out into the solar system beyond. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the last project, episode 01. Oh yes, it is finally started. The last project has finally started. Oh, you know what, I'm so excited. I'm so excited I probably can't think straight, which is not good because it means that I will not be able to satisfactorily perform the commentary required in order to keep this rambling voice talking for the duration of the video. Maybe I should explain exactly what's going on, the whole premise thing, in case you missed the first episode. So basically, what we're doing is, we've escaped Kerbin, we've escaped. There was this big, bad, nasty, mean asteroid and it was going to destroy the Space Center, and it did destroy the Space Center, as you saw. And luckily, before that happened, we launched a load of stuff up into orbit, including, but not limited to, all these assortment of transfer engines that you can see here. And we placed them into many different stations in different unique categories. There's transfer engines, one of which we've just undocked. We're going to be using a skipper engine because our first target today is Eve, for no reason other than someone in the Twitch chat suggested it. And that's the first station that you'll see in this video, is the transfer engines. We take our first module, the skipper engine, with a small little 1/4 size NASA tank just to provide it a little bit of transfer engine capability, some fuel. And then we head over to our next destination. And as we have all these different assets of all different kinds up in orbit, basically, what we're going to be doing is going around shopping. Imagine a supermarket and you've got your trolley, is what we call it in the UK, and you push it around the supermarket, you go down the different aisles. There's one aisle for groceries and fresh fruit, and another aisle for cereal, and another aisle for milk. And you go and you collect, we're going to have some milk and we're going to have some cereal, and put them together, and then that'll be breakfast. It's really rather similar to this. I'm going to come to my first aisle, or I went to the first aisle and I picked up this transfer engine. This is my trolley, and now I've taken my trolley out into the second aisle, or wherever we are in this metaphorical supermarket, and I have picked up, or am in the process of picking up, some landers. Some atmospheric landers. The non-atmospheric landers are next episode. Need to remember to get my chronology right. So yes, some atmospheric landers, because we are landing on Eve, and Eve is a really big planet. It's a really, really big planet, which means it has enough gravity to trap a significantly large amount of atmosphere. Which, good for us, actually makes landing on it fairly easy. I mean, the problem with Eve is getting back, but as we have no home to return to, I mean, yeah, the planet's still there, but once the Space Center's gone, that's it, man. You can't use Kerbin anymore. Space Center is dead. Nothing we can do, I'm afraid. So we only need to land on these other planets. We don't really have any intentions of bringing the Kerbals back alive, or just back in general. We do hope they will survive. That would be a long-term benefit. But it's very much seeding life out into the solar system beyond. Quite a romantic idea if you think about it. So anyway, our shopping trolley goes to the first aisle in the supermarket and picks up, was it second aisle, first aisle? Whatever the case, it picks up some atmospheric landers and burns outwards, and then realized that it was burning in the wrong direction. So it changes the control direction to the correct direction along the thrust vector, and then burns outwards to raise our apparatus up and hopefully get ourselves a little bit of a rendezvous with the second aisle, third aisle, whatever aisle system index we are currently operating under. And then it's time for us to go to the rovers and RCS fuel store. Yes, what have we got here? Well, put it simply, we have got rovers and we have got a store of RCS fuel. There you go. And rovers are a good thing. Rovers make our missions much more interesting, because without them we are just landing modules, but with them we could be landing modules and then driving for a bit, and then just, well, yeah, landed modules. I got messaged on Twitter, at HOCgamer by the way, if you want to talk to me on Twitter. I do respond on Twitter. I respond less on YouTube comments, bear that in mind. But I do talk to people on Twitter, and someone asked me, don't you think it's going to get really repetitive when your premise each time is just to dock things in orbit and then to send things out to different planets? And it might do. That is in fact a perfectly reasonable assumption to make, but what you forget is that I am incompetent in certain regards, and as a result each thing is actually going to be quite varied. Look at this for an example. I wanted to undock this RCS Stoke, which I did. Then I wanted to undock and attach this rover and the RCS Stoke onto my thing, onto my rocket. Rather than just doing something simple like, you know, going around the back, docking onto the back docking port and then moving it away, I decided to undock the rover and then just kind of knock it using this RCS thing, and then maneuver myself around and dock onto it. You will see, by watching these videos, you will see quite a lot of weird techniques that I just kind of come up with on the spot because I think they will be either entertaining, useful, sometimes neither. I just kind of do them. Notice how those modules in the background are just wobbling. How would that factor into our metaphor of a supermarket? The aisles. There's some kid, right? There's some kid in a little pushchair on the opposite side of the aisle to the side you're on, and he's just like, "Mom, I want one of these," and he's just tugging at the thing, and the aisle's wobbling. Yeah, that's what it would be. That's exactly what it would be. Moving swiftly on, we pick up our rovers and our RCS store, and we time travel round, or time warp, whatever the case is, to our 100 Kerbals. 100 Kerbals! 100 Kerbals floating above Kerbin. Kerbin, the name of the planet. My dad can never remember the name. Whenever I'm talking about my space stuff, he's always like, "Oh, it's very interesting. So you've launched the Kerbal off of Kerbin." What? Anyway, point being that we have arrived at our Kerbal station, because up until now all these habitation modules have been empty. These are the habitation modules that are full, the ones we are cycling through right now. These are the ones on the station itself. Ah, my eyes. Yes, that was the sun. And a solar panel, and a more solar panel, and this is a cupola module. We have one of these at each end, and we can look out the window and see our little Eve mission ship shopping trolley floating away very slowly. Oh, we need to put some Kerbals in it. Better make sure it comes back. It's a nice view, but it actually floats quite a distance away, unfortunately. What I should have done, perhaps, is just dock with the whatchamacallit, because in point 25 we can transfer Kerbals directly, can't we? Yes, I should have done that. Unfortunately, we're not in point 25 right now. This was all recorded in point 24, and the footage you see for the majority of the first 2 or 3 episodes was all recorded in point 24. Reason being, quite legitimately, that, well, A, the update wasn't out yet, and B, none of the features of point 25 are actually going to be used in this series. Which is in fact a bit of a shame. We get all our 12 Kerbals out, 3 lots of 4, and get them out of the station and fly them around in space, and then eventually gather them and put them into our Eve mission rocket. But yes, the point 25 features aren't going to be used. The Kerbals were presumably researching point 25 at the time the asteroid hit, and all the data was destroyed. So we couldn't launch any space planes in time that used the new parts. The Kerbal Space Center, luckily they researched Space Center destruction just as the asteroid hit, which allowed us to destroy the Space Center. Can you imagine if they hadn't researched it in time? Can you imagine if the update was delayed slightly more? The asteroid would have hit the Space Center and then just, oh, it's fine. And then all the Kerbals in orbit would have been like, oh, well, I guess we go back down to the Space Center then. Oh, okay. Yes, that would have happened. What is currently happening, though, because that is not the case, is that we are time warping. Once more, we have visited, what was that, the third aisle? Fourth aisle? I forget what system we're working with. And we have now got a transfer engine, a skipper transfer engine, not the most efficient, but certainly quite packing a punch. A fuel store in the form of that little fuel tank you see above it. We may want to expand that later. Loads of habitation modules and loads of Kerbals to fill them, which are currently filling them. And a rover and some RCS. And this is our unique module store. Another defense against the dark arts. No, a defense against the comments from that person on Twitter saying, will it get repetitive, is that we do have unique modules. Ooh, yes we do. Unique. Ooh, that word. I'm sorry, that word, it just rolls off the tongue. Unique. Unique modules. Modules. Words that end with that z sound are very fun to say. In fact, talking just itself is very fun to say. It's the reason I do these YouTube videos. But anyway, I'm getting off track. I do apologize. But I digress. The modules we have here, there is one unique module for each planet and each major celestial body. Like Tylo, we've got our own system set up for Tylo. In fact, Tylo actually has something really interesting, but I will keep that a secret for now. I wouldn't want to give it away to just yet. You see the big artificial gravity ring? That's not actually intended for artificial gravity, but it looks like one, so it's quite iconic for HOCgaming. And this is our plane, our SSDO, not using the 0.25 parts, which I have detached and I'm now reattaching. And you may wonder why exactly I was detaching it. The reason being is that it was docked on top of the module that I was trying to get to. We, for our Eve mission, we have got a boat. There's a big clunky lunchbox, I believe is what it was being called. It's basically a raft, and doesn't look particularly watertight. But it ought to be, you know, sufficient for it to float. It does have the nice air intakes at the bottom, those radial intakes of ours, that have such a high impact tolerance that they basically survive any sort of collision with anything. And that includes the noxious, deadly composition of Eve's oceans. We never really think about Eve as having oceans, or that thick atmosphere around it makes it kind of hard to see. But yeah, it does. And now, as we bring it closer to our ship, or, well, it's relatively closer to our ship here, but technically we are bringing the ship closer to it, seeing as it is the ship that is performing the inclination change. There you go. A little bit of terminology clarification which didn't really mean anything of importance. And now it's docked, and with this we have pretty much everything. Or do we? What is it? We're missing something. Oh yes, we are missing fuel. Fuel is useful. I have a skipper engine that is not particularly efficient, and as a result, gaining a bit more fuel would be quite nice. So having worked our way all the way up into the various different orbits, we now arrive down at about not 100, about 80 kilometer. See that number in the top there? That's our altitude. Yes, it's about an 80 kilometer orbit. And we bring ourselves down to our periapsis, and there it is, a little icon. Fuel Matrix 2. Perhaps unsurprisingly, the second of our two fuel matrices. Yes. I have this habit of always putting I onto the end of any plural. You know how cactus plural is cacti? I like to do it for everything, even if it's not correct. Like fortress, spelled R-E-S-S, which is for, you know, tress, and pronounced just fortress by me for some reason. Because it sounds like us, I think it should be, fortry. Yes, fortry. Sounds like I'm foretelling, I'm forscribing for words. So anyway, here we are at our fuel matrix C. No, it's a matrix, god freaking damn it. Sorry, just hitting my head against my palm, face palm. Anyway, we're here. Whatever on earth it is called, don't swear, Harvey. I try not to swear. Whatever on earth, blah blah blah, this thing is called, it is certainly full of fuel, and it is full of fuel that we want on our ship, seeing as we have been, A, burning quite a lot of fuel to actually go around and do all these different transfers, and B, we just don't have enough anyway, because, as I was originally trying to say, that skipper engine really is not very efficient. So you see, each one of these modules is a NASA tank with 2 half NASA tanks on the outside, giving us a total of 2 NASA tanks, for those of us who can do simple addition. And they are rather big and heavy. Big, very, very big. It is going to be very difficult to actually maneuver the ship around. Excuse me. It's lucky that we've got this RCS tug here to help, because what we can do, we can detach it from in between the boat, or lunchbox I think I called it, and the rest of the ship, and bring it over to our fuel matrix. Yes, got it right. And it can help, because of course our RCS ports are only on the actual skipper engine itself, which we are inexplicably I hope we don't lose it. That would be quite unfortunate, seeing as we do have to actually go out to Eve at some point in this series. That we are using to transfer and to move things around. So by docking our RCS tug here onto the other end of this now detached fuel stage, we can get some RCS ports on either side of it, so that the thrust vector, in whatever direction we're trying to move it in, always goes through the center of mass, or nearabouts. Remember, if you don't have your thrust aligned with your center of mass, you are going to get an awful lot of spin when you try and translate in any direction. Or even if you're trying to spin in any direction, you will get a lot of spin, perhaps surprisingly. So we can bring our RCS tug up, we can dock it onto the end, and there we go. Now, this big heavy assembly, really heavy assembly, you do forget, without any sort of frame of reference, just how big these NASA parts are. You may think that it's a long walk down the road to your local chemists, but that's just peanuts to space. That's a quote from Douglas Adams. I had a chemistry lesson where my teacher was trying to explain just how mind-bogglingly how mind-bogglingly big a mole is. 1 mole being the number of atoms in the mass of any element of its atomic mass. Like its relative atomic mass. Say you've got carbon, 12 is its relative atomic mass, right? And then you would get 1 mole would make 12 grams of carbon. There you go. Science. I'm totally doing A-level. And so he was trying to explain just how mind-bogglingly big this number is. There are so many atoms in this 12 grams of carbon. And whilst I ramble, we just accidentally nudge our thing away from us. Just wanted to point out my ineptitude there. And he did use that phrase. He said, yes, it's mind-bogglingly big. And it made me think of Hitchhiker's Guide. The quote, "Space is big. You just won't believe how vastly, hugely, mind-bogglingly big it is." And because I was thinking about that, and I am the person who loves his voice far too much to selfie for any reasonable human being, I kind of just stood up in my chair and went, "Douglas Adams!" and then reeled off this quote. And everyone in the class looked at me as if I was insane. I'm not insane. They're all insane. I'm the normal one, they're the weird ones. Yes, quite. So we dock on this big fuel, this big mass onto our Eve ship, and then we take off our Eve RCS tug, whatever the freak this is. No swearing, Harvey. And we bring it over. We once more send it out on another mini mission to go get our boat. Because remember, this was in between the boat and the rest of the ship, and by detaching the boat in order to get to this, we kind of just let it float away. Oh, I'm calling it a boat, not a lunchbox. Oops. Anyway, the RCS tug comes, and it sounds weird, it's not an innuendo, don't worry. It approaches, is a better word. It approaches our lunchbox, docks onto it with a little bit of a flip. When you were dealing with such light things, you really don't have to worry about lining up your docking ports. RCS tug is so tiny in mass that I can just put it vaguely near the docking port of the ship I want to dock to, and the magnetic force between the two will just kind of ram it into position. It's really quite nice. So anyway, a bit of maneuvering here and a bit of maneuvering there, and we bring it back. And with this, we have the entire ship done. Ooh, there we go. We have assembled. In our supermarket, using our trolley and our various different metaphors, we have brought together a ship capable of transferring all the way out to Eve. Hopefully. In theory. I mean, I could have done the calculations for this, like working out the delta V, because I know how much fuel I have, and then what the change in mass will be, and I know the ISP of my engine, blah blah blah. I could have done that, and I did kind of do it on stream, just not for the now entire built ship. I know the engine by itself can do it, but I suppose that doesn't really help when I'm carrying all this payload. So it's going to be blind faith more than anything, which I think is a good premise to base our space missions on. So if you would like to see the next episode of this series, please do consider subscribing to the channel. You probably are already, so I'll just tell you to like the video if you have liked the video, seeing as, you know, the clue is in the name. And if you want to see me recording these live, because I do, I record the footage for these live on Twitch, you can go to the link in the description, twitch.tv/HOCgaming, and you can watch them every, or more or less every weekday from around 6 or 7 p.m. BST. No, UTC, whatever, numbers, it's all in the description. And you can follow me on Twitter at HOCgamer. Thanks for watching. I'm so eloquent today. Thanks for watching, and I will see you all next time.